Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Marketing to Agents. And as always, I have Lalit with me, who is, of course, actively looking at what's happening in the industry. And today we have some exciting things which happened over this week to discuss and share our thoughts on. Welcome, Lalit.
Hey Ashwani, happy to be here. It has been quite an
Fair.
eventful week, so happy to get started.
Fantastic, Lalit. All right, as Lalit, yep, this has been a great week for updates and things happening in the agent space. So why don't let me get started immediately with the first one, which is we heard that Google Search Console AI opt out toggle will go live this week, and this has been enforced by UK regulators. Now, again, of course, as with everything, there are both pros and cons of this. To my mind, like, the first thing which comes out is that having publishers or having websites or having brands voluntarily be out of AI searches or AI overview, AI mode. I don't know if because I don't know why it would make sense. Of course, it is in a way to protect publishers, but at the same time, also if you're not getting visibility there, then how do people discover you if they are searching? So it's a mixed bag. But I would love to hear your thoughts around this.
Yeah, I think this is also very important because it is the first legally enforceable, like a first party opt out by a publisher, right? Because nowhere ever in the world such a thing has ever been, let's say, brought out. So we'll have to wait and watch how actually the what are the impacts of this. But if I were a publisher and if I have, let's say, something very something very important, let's say there is a lot of human effort goes into coming up with, let's say, an analysis or let's say a research report, right? And I've already established enough distribution and brand for myself. If this could be like a traditional publisher like an Economist or a Harvard, or like a very well-known, let's say, a business review, magazine, they anyway have a lot of pull. And the fact that they might want to opt out from this is that when their audience is, let's say, querying on Google, right? And if they know that their trusted publication is not a part of the AI answers, they would have to come back to the publisher's website and then maybe use AI on that website, right? So I think it makes sense for like already established publisher brands. New ones definitely should be thinking twice about it. Uh, but I can see there is a case for publishers to enforce that their audience can have a much better experience on their own portal in their own, let's say, walled garden experience. So that's it. But I think along with this, I think Google Search Console also has started to give the AI search performance insights. That is again a very like a welcoming update, because prior to this, I think most of the marketers were sort of looking at visibility tools which are giving like some sort of an approximate visibility and a very empirical search volume analysis on various prompts. So it was a very, very, let's say, approximate sense of their performance on AI searches. So this change, I think, will give marketers like a real view into how is AI search actually happening, what searches have high volume, what kind of prompts are people actually providing in their domain. So that's I would say a welcoming update.
Perfect. So let's break it down into two parts, and would love to dive deeper into the first part that you said. So let's talk about the publishers now. So, for example, like a couple of questions here from what you explained. Number one is, why did this never happen in the organic search era? So let's say in the world of SEO, why did this never happen? Why were there no? Why did regulators never enforce that? Okay, I don't want to be ranked in organic search, or I don't want Google to even crawl my content. So just block the crawlers. Number one. And number two question related to this is that why do they need to opt out? Like I'm under the assumption that if there is a paywall to their content, like Economist or New York Times, most of their content is behind a paywall. So doesn't that automatically stop their content being shown in organic or in AI overviews?
Yeah, so great 2 points there. So first is like in the erstwhile era of search, the the decision of information consumption was still left to the user, right? So the question in the user's mind was very in a very lossy fashion, expressed in terms of keywords, and the user would have to read the whole content on the publisher's website, which although would have been listed in the search results page, but the answer would not be given, right? So answer would still be obtained by the user when they're consuming the content. So that would only happen when there is a click, and then the user actually gets into the publication's website. Whether they are paid or fully monetized through ads, that's a separate question. But the publisher could still rank, as well as expect that the user will is the user relationship is controlled by them, right? User experience and user relationship is controlled by them. So that has changed with AI. And your second point being that they could just paywall or limit the content. But I think what is also happening is that there is a lot of cross referencing that keeps on happening, right? Where let's say a tertiary article is basically referring a primary source, and some of the content is already out there, and the primary source, which is the publisher, uh, the entire content is not paywalled. Some of the content is still visible, and then maybe AI can hallucinate the rest of it, right? So there are things which can still result into the answer being synthesized and the publisher being cited, and the user still getting a sense that this answer is synthesized with this publisher citation, so this is something that they can take at the face value of the publisher's trust, right? So people who have a very high regard of their hard work of journalism and let's say editorial effort, and they already have established brands, they if they opt out, then I think the AI overview answers or AI mode answers will not be able to cite that website, right? So if my most preferred publisher is not even cited, right, then I still have this fear of missing out, right, as a user, right? So I would, although I might be a little bit more aware after I read the AI mode answer, but the fear of missing out would still make me go to the preferred publisher's website and then use the AI there.
Understood. Just building on top of exactly what you said. So let's talk about a slightly more now a future state or in a slightly extremer scenario. Now let's say it has been 2 years since this regulation came out, and let's say top 20 publishers or top 50 publishers have actually decided to opt out of it. So does that in some way then lower the credibility of AI answers in general or AI mode in general? Because if AI cannot access, if the LLMs cannot even access main publishers or key publisher content like authority, which are let's say real authority on that matter. So for example, let's say Harvard, medical school or Stanford, these take away their content from AI mode, then does it reduce the overall uh, trustability of the AI mode or the AI published answers? Do you see that happening? Let's say after 5 years, if there are tons of publishers who take away and they wait for only exclusive deals or licensing deals like we discussed in our last episode, then what's the future of the AI mode in general if this really becomes a trend and it's really adopted aggressively by publishers?
Yeah. I think, see, there would be certain type of information which is highly, let's say, gate kept, like extreme cutting edge research and something which is not let's say accessible in public domain as something like let's say an event which is not happening for public to which is of public interest and which is not being covered by popular media. And if it is a very niche domain and a certain publication maybe funds a lot of research and gets a lot of information, right? So, and if they end up keeping the information, to only private to them by opting out, then I think for those domains, it will be hard for the user to trust the AI review, right, or the AI mode answer, right? because there might be tertiary, let's say, people who consume that primary source, and then they maybe publish their opinions and publish their, maybe like their own synthesis, right? So, but still, people can make mistakes. AI can also make mistakes, right? So, for those domains, I think the I'm assuming that the publication also has enough ability to distribute and maybe build their own audience, right? So those people would rather prefer a similar experience on that publication's website or their internal thing. But obviously, it has to be AI-driven answers. But they would not go for, let's say, an AI mode, right?
Generic,
In our own, let's say, day-to-day usage, we can see glimpses of it, glimpses of this behavior, right? There are many popular car review websites, right, where any new car, there is an enthusiastic community. They have like rich reviews about new cars, old cars, and this is an important decision, right? So people want to go deep into those reviews and then make a purchase decision, right? So, and compare someone, let's say user A goes to the car review destination portal, and then they come out, let's say, immersed and fully aware about what to buy, all aspects covered, and compare that user with, let's say, another user who directly goes to an AI mode and just gives car A versus car B as a comparison, and those sources, they probably do not cover the entire thing, or maybe hallucinate, or it might have also some sources which are not trustworthy, right? So the user experience might be different, right? And as more and more people get to know about this high quality information source, they might actually then directly start preferring going to that website and using AI there, right? So that's what I'm thinking, that the FOMO, the fear of missing out, will still work in favor of the publications, provided the publications have enough brand awareness.
understood. Yep. I agree, Lith. I think my view also resonates here, where I think this regulation is a welcome change. It gives power back, some control back to publishers, and for really high quality publishers and who are working in a niche or who have who control a niche really well. I think they'll have some more control with this. And then, of course, like we discussed in our last episode, they'll always have an opportunity to go into licensing partnerships with these LLMs so that at least their content is used and they get compensated for it if LLMs are using or building off their content.
Yep,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Yep. So let's move on to our next item in our docket today. So Adobe Analytics published some data, very interesting for some of our listeners and the brands that we track. The data was that AI referred shoppers now generate 53% more revenue per visit than other channels. So if you're a brand, if you're an e-commerce brand or you're a D2C brand and you have a mix of traffic coming onto your website, the traffic which is from AI engines or LLMs or traffic coming from that channel actually earns 53% more revenue for you rather than organic, direct, or any other channel that you were running. So this finding seems to be, number one, is of course significantly shifted from what the behavior used to be last year. So now people are relying more on AI search and then consuming. Once they have zeroed down on a brand or on a product, I think they're spending more, welcome to spend more there. So that's what we are observing. This directly, of course, has an impact on what we have been talking about around GEO, AEO investments and brands being taking that a lot more seriously in showcasing their product catalogs and presenting their catalogs to AI searches.
Yep. So, Ashwani, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think this is like what we have been observing with many of our customers, right, at AirPulse. This insight from Adobe actually just confirms that, right? Now, what we are witnessing here is that AI is emerging out as a trusted intermediary for non like internet users, right? So they no longer want to directly go to information sources or websites and have the patience to browse through the information that they need. This intermediary is earning their trust increasingly with every passing day, with the increase in its intelligence, with the increase in its capabilities, and this intermediary is now actually, in some sense, the primary source of, like, what products people buy, what like how do they even, let's say, evaluate products and ultimately make an opinion on something, right? The whole demand generation and branding piece, that is still separate. I think there are different mediums where users go with a more browse intent, like, or just maybe like a feed intent where they want to consume what has been uh, sort of offered to them in a news feed kind of an experience, like Twitter and various other destinations. That is where I think the demand generation can happen. But once, let's say, someone is seriously looking for something, right? I think this trusted intermediary has a very important role to play, right? And what we've also observed is that the memory with which your longitudinal interactions with these AI engines uh, tell a lot about you to these AI engines, which is then utilized to make recommendations and your search experience, or rather your AI experience, much better, right? So it already knows so much about you that the recommendation that it ends up giving, it is of such high relevance to you that when you visit the website, right, you have very a very rare chance you might not like that recommendation, right? So that's what we are observing when this kind of stats come out.
Absolutely. So I think you mentioned it at the very start. I think something which changed in my mind after listening to this was that hearing about this data point was that AI is no longer just a search. Like, people are not just searching or using it to validate something or know an answer, but now actually they are starting, and even to a large extent, influencing their buyer journey through AI. Like, even an e-commerce buying journey. I think earlier we were thinking about businesses, B2B buyers journey, but I think now AI is playing a key role in, of course, discovery of your brand, but even convincing a buyer to how your brand is maybe superior over others, or how some other brand is superior. And then when the buyer is finally coming convinced to a particular brand's website, I think they're a lot more confident in spending much more money. So I think AI search has become a critical piece in actually a buyer experience also now. And I think this shift will probably continue more, because just that, with so many products out there, with so many websites out there, I think it will automatically, this is right workload for AI to take up, where they actually reference the answers, where they showcase more things, and they are able to build better comparisons, on the fly comparisons, like you said, personalized to me or personalized to a particular user, and thereby direct them to a right query.
Yeah.
So follow up on this, Lalit, is, so if this is the behavior, again, follow up on this would be, does that change how an e-commerce buying experience happens? So does that change how people, let's say biggest e-commerce site, Amazon. So if today people go on Amazon and there are ads of certain brands. So if I'm searching for, let's say, a category, let's say shoes or mattresses, there are, of course, Amazon has its own ad inventory there, and of course there are a number of different brands. Some could be private labels, some could be their own, some could be different smaller, bigger brands. Now, if that is getting done by AI, or some of that search is happening, some of that buying decision is being made by AI, that means, and that is happening outside Amazon, let's say, how does that then impact a couple of things for a large e-commerce portal, for example? Number one is their ad inventories. How useful are those? Number two is discovery of different brands then on that website. Now, because if the discovery is happening outside Amazon, does that change how I, as a small brand, promote myself? So I think it
Yeah.
does. It would change certain paradigms for e-commerce. Like, what do
Yeah.
you like? Where do you see that going?
Yeah. 100%. I think so. All intermediary digital players, right, or aggregators, or websites which are actually made a living by just aggregating supply, right? Whether it is e-commerce and Amazon, or it could be, let's say, a travel category like booking.com, etc. So they would have to look for more, let's say, adjacent value proposition. And if you re-look at what Amazon did very recently, so they actually opened up their entire logistics infrastructure as a service to independent sellers. That was, I would say, it was a step done very much with an outlook of their reducing relevance in the discovery, in the changing discovery paradigm, right? So if consumers can discover what to buy, or even directly when they are interact with ChatGPT about, let's say, the couple of alternatives of a category that they are evaluating, could be shoes, could be, let's say, water bottles, could be televisions, right? AI can directly hit the information source. It could be a Shopify website, or it could be a direct the seller website, right? And it no longer needs the Amazon portal, right? Because Amazon, when compared to the original the seller's website, always had inferior quality information, right? Amazon was always like a checkout and infrastructure, where if I already know what I want to buy, searching for it on Amazon and then buying it, and the trust that comes along with the buying process, in fact the checkout process, the refunds guarantee, the on-time delivery, I think those were the core promises. And as the discovery gets disintermediated, right, and when individual sellers are directly getting products, and sellers are getting directly recommended by AI engines, and AI engines are also doing a great job in terms of onboarding these e-commerce, not e-commerce, let's say e-commerce sellers, by allowing them to upload their catalog, integrate deeper partnerships with players like Shopify. So Amazon obviously has a very high risk of getting reduced relevance, or I would say diminishing relevance in the future, and that's why they had to sort of open up their logistics infrastructure so that they can continue to take like a pie of the e-commerce value chain, right? So that we are going to see in various other, let's say, domains as well, right? So that's what I would say.
Perfect. And Lalit, you haven't, or like I haven't come across anything which happens today with AI on Amazon's website, right? None of these large e-commerce players I've seen, they have brought in AI in helping buyers make a decision, right? Like I have not come across anything. Have you seen anything which, let's say, Amazon, or any big Best Buy, or any of these big retailers, have you seen anything they've done in their core online shopping experience which is enabling AI for buyers journey?
Yeah, I think there have been attempts. Like Amazon has Rufus, which which obviously promises a better discovery, but I've never had a very satisfactory experience with Rufus. Right? There was a time when I was
Right.
comparing vacuum cleaners. Very lately, I was also comparing air purifiers, and didn't have a very satisfactory experience. I had the best experience when I went to these AI engines like ChatGPT, right? The two reasons why I think it's not happening is, one is that they obviously had inferior product information. Sellers were anyway considering them as, let's say, checkout infrastructure, and hence their product listings are also bare minimum information, right? Obviously reviews are there, reviews are helpful, uh, but reviews are also available on the seller website, right? And that is the first thing, where the information quality is itself different on Amazon. The second thing is, I think, the UX, right? The UX is not very optimized for, let's say, a discovery, let's say, kind of an experience, right? And so far, these products haven't never made to the discovery, let's say, part of the journey, right? They've always been, discovery used to happen somewhere else, and then when you come to Amazon, you should be clear about what you buy, right? So that muscle memory still sort of makes it more frictionful to do discovery on Amazon.
Understood. Yeah, I think that that's a good point, and I think we'll see probably a lot of work happening in this space, and especially I think for brands, I think this is a great opportunity where earlier they had to fight for user attention in an Amazon world. Now I think with the search blowing it up and AI search bringing more discovery there, I think if newer brands, smaller brands can also attempt to invest higher in GEO, AEO, and thereby driving more user behavior towards and user convincing towards their products.
Yep.
Yep. Perfect. The next item on our docket is around this whole open source shift to open source. So we discussed in one of our earlier episodes about how there are companies which are now moving to open source, and they're not using Claude anymore or OpenAI just because of of how expensive it has become now, the token cost, and therefore they are now moving some of their workload to open source. Some companies have completely shifted to open source. Now, of course, this is not a consumer level change. This is not me going and searching on DeepSeek or some other platform. This is a business. Let's say a business that I use is using now is now using an open source model for their AI workload. So, like, do you see that having any impact on me as a user, or how me as a brand will have to adapt to that shift? Let's say if a lot of this, AI traffic moves over to open source, then do you think that shift making any difference for a consumer or a smaller brand or a B2B company?
Yeah. So let's unpack this a little bit more. So you're absolutely right. I think as AI gains more maturity in terms of their workloads, right? Some workloads will be very satisfactorily delivered by open source level intelligence, right? And there will be some workload which requires frontier intelligence, right? And as open source models continue to progress their intelligence, we will see that a good chunk of even consumer use cases are being delivered through open source. Not maybe directly consumers interacting with an open source platform, but they might be interacting with, let's say, a Manos agent or a Hermes agent, or let's say, a Siri, right? So, and could be any other any so that surface area would be a lot more fragmented than it is today. Today it is, like top two three players, or largely, the top consumer companies. But as we see uh, inference getting localized, local models getting better, more and more, let's say, experiments happening on, let's say, variables. So we'll see that the first touch point with AI, or what we call as AI assistant, that surface area will also have lot of fragmentation, right? And uh, open source models might have a very strong, let's say, part to play in terms of delivering intelligence on that, fragmented surface area. So when it comes to AI search and discovery of, let's say, products and vendors and services, I think what this brings the attention back to is the quality of the website optimization, right? Because there's no one search index that you might you can rely on, right? Uh, some of these search engines have made it very difficult for developers to access it. Like Google search index is no longer available for developers. Bing is also putting restrictions, right? So newer and newer search players will come up, right? We have seen companies like Parallel, Expa, Firecrawl, and then Brave. There might be a few more. There might be a few Chinese ones also, right? So I think people would optimize behind the scenes for their, let's say, cost, and we will see a very fragmented consumer touchpoint, as well as the search index that powers it. So the only control that a brand or a business has is on their own website, right? And making sure that the website is, in general, very well optimized, has a lot of information, and is available for like all search index builders. Anybody and everybody who's trying to build a search index or any type of directory, the website should be welcoming for all of it, right? So I think these are the things that are going to be more important when it comes to AI search discovery in a more fragmented, fractured consumer surface area.
Agree, Lilith. I think that's a great viewpoint. as I was researching more about this whole shift to open source, one more thing stuck to me that with the recent with the recent announcement from the US government where they are banning the use of Fable 5 cloud model to other entities, non-US entities and governments. Now, if that ban persists, or if there is so-called weaponization of AI which starts happening, where the latest models or the most advanced models are only made accessible to a certain country or certain set of companies, what does that, in that sense, then how does that change the demographic? Then do every country starts building their own models or relying on their own infrastructure, because tomorrow no country would want to rely on something which can be stopped by another entity, right? So what are your thoughts around that? Again, I know this is slightly away from open source, but then just because of the nature of fragmentation, does this also add another layer of fragmentation into how the AI agents or AI searches will behave eventually on the internet? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think the that one event that you're talking about, right? Like the U.S. government, enforcing a ban on Fable 5 or Claude Fable. I think that
Yeah.
is going to accelerate the a lot of these sovereign AI efforts, right? Because what people will start to realize is that they have to really invest in their own, let's say, native AI infrastructure, because in AI, the way things are drastically shifting towards AI, right? All workload, knowledge work, information access, right? It is becoming, as I said, a very crucial part of all, let's say, information pipeline, right? Whether generation of information or consumption of information, which is the lifeline for, let's say, modern economies, right? So you don't want, you obviously would want to de-risk or as much as possible control every piece of the pipeline, right? So if somehow that one piece stops working, the entire economy can come to a halt, right? So I would say it is, it's a positive um, event with respect to the acceleration that is going to provide to the sovereign AI efforts.
Yep.
It also makes it very urgent for, let's say, independent AI labs to join forces and maybe create, let's say, a more, let's say, a global level, like a research lab where no one country owns it and it sort of belongs to the people of the world, right? And so that frontier intelligence should belong to humanity, right? So there we will also see, let's
Yeah.
say, some labs which are just like there is a security group called the Anonymous, right? I think so. There also might be efforts where some really talented researchers in a very anonymized way, right, might maybe pool in their resources and like the decentralized intelligence effort, right, which actually has been not getting too much attention, too much oxygen, so to say, that actually might actually get a lot of push, right? So decentralized intelligence, which is basically a paradigm where people can contribute their compute, contribute their data sets, and researchers in in this decentralized ecosystem can work on frontier, can work to build frontier intelligence. So I think that will also get some impetus.
Fantastic, Lil. Yeah, I think you're right. This is a net positive for the world, where at least there'll be more homegrown talent, there'll be more sovereign AI investments which will happen. Uh, but for the users, like I'm still not 100% sure. So if I as a user, will you do you see in future, since like countries mandating that if I'm a user in the UK or in Europe somewhere, they mandate that a European, that my search query or my AI search query should only go to a model which is like locally deployed, where the search query does not go out, where the data is kept in the UK or in the Europe. So do you see even those kind of controls coming in, which might really limit, limit again the ability of AI search to actually traverse or do a lot of things? Do you see that also paradigm this getting involving into that as well? or it won't have a material impact on how things are, how the behavior will be, the users.
Yeah, I can definitely see more niche domains like medical research, sorry, medical AI, medical queries, or let's say queries related to financial markets, right? So those are domains where uh, which are different from general search, right? Where there might be a better case to have more regulations in terms of privacy, retaining the data. Um, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yep.
This is a very new domain, and I think people
Yeah.
are quite paranoid about their privacy and access to data. Uh, so somewhere I think progressive countries would have to subsidize or incentivize local AI usage, right? So closer home in India as well, what we should be seeing soon is that a lot of these government contracts, right? So if someone is building solutions for the government, right? So government would probably give a portion of the money for the contract in credits for the sovereign AI, right? For example, let's say if there is a model that the government is supporting, right? So some of that would be in kind, right? Uh, in terms of credits, so that the local AI consumption development is given more impetus.
Perfect. I agree with it. And I think, like, I think you said it rightly. I think this topic is the topic is evolving so fast, and there is one side where there is so much opportunity, there's also so much fear around it, and there's also so much protectionism which might come around it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this molds over next few years, next few months. But yeah, very you are seeing every kind of behavior happening around this technology. Like, and again, very similar to how any new technology is treated, whether it's nuclear, whether it was computers back in our time. So it could be multiple things. But yeah, great to see that at least there are more progressive mindset today around it, versus more delimiting mindset. But yeah, we'll see how this traverses. Uh, but yeah, these were our key items in the docket for this week. Anything that you think you've come across, anything which might be interesting and which might be worth you giving a thought here?
I think so. One other recent development was like some of the companies actually launched their wearables, like uh, Snap launching a
Yep.
like a mixed reality headset, mixed reality glasses, right? And I think we are also probably not too far from, let's say, the OpenAI consumer product, right? So I think
Right.
that would again be a little, I would say, very important inflection point in terms of again AI search and AI information consumption, right? So AI will become, like, at least I'm of the opinion that AI in a positive sense will become uh, even more integral part of our day-to-day information diet and information, let's say, pipeline, right? And uh, especially like from the topic of search, the lens that we have here, I think personalization will become extremely important, right? So the only vector that people would have to ensure that they're getting the right kind of discovery is to be thoroughly detailed about their own products, right? So should have more case studies, should have more reviews, should have more details about the customer, your product use cases, etc. Right? So more and more details about the product, better it would be to get discovered.
Yeah, actually, that's a great segue. So you're absolutely right. I think any new revolutionary technology will also enable a new form factor. So we saw mobile coming in with the internet, with apps. We saw again watches coming out. We saw, of course, AirPods coming out. Things like that. So there'll always be a new form factor which
Yeah.
comes into picture now with AI being so revolutionary. There are ideas around. You're absolutely right that OpenAI device, which is like a phone, but it sees everything around you.
Yeah.
Then there are glasses already in the market. Then there was thoughts around a pendant coming in. Some company launching a pendant, and then there is
Yeah.
also there were again rumors again about AirPods with cameras where they are more spatially aware around what's happening, and they can add that context to you as you are going through the world.
Correct.
So you're absolutely right. This,
Yeah.
and because AI inherently as a technology can consume a lot more data and then give you a very crisp understanding of what's happening around you. I think the products are right now more focusing on enhancing uh, other sensory perceptive. So it could be what they hear, what they are seeing, what they are spatially aware of, where they are going. So I think some of
Yeah.
those domains will get a lot more attention now.
Yeah.
So it'll
So, ju-
be, yeah,
so just the last bit on, I think you uh, alluded to a very interesting way to look at information and form factors, right? So if you look at the last 35 years, right? So with every new, let's say, device innovation or hardware innovation, right? So there always has been um addition of a new information dimension, right? Or a new information aspect which was not earlier available, right? For example, from newspapers to websites, right? It was on-demand consumption, right? Newspaper is only available, at the time when it is published, and the next edition comes out the next day, right? So anytime availability is the new dimension with the form factor of the website and the internet. With mobile, I think what the new information that came about in the information consumption equation was the location, and where you are, right? And then the information around it, right? That would change what you consume, how you consume, right? Now with AI, I think there are a bunch of dimensions coming together at the same time. So AI, first of all, it knows a lot more about you. Second, it actually can not just, it's multimodal. It can see, right? When I say AI, let's say form factors associated with AI. For example, let's say a glass, right, or a AI application on your phone, right? It can see, it knows you more. It is multimodal, and also it can judge on your behalf, right? So I think these three dimensions coming together are going to just fully revolutionize how we consume information and what new applications are getting built.
absolutely. And then just one more axis around this to keep in mind. I think any new form factor, the new form factor will succeed if they help user like disproportionately more in some new paradigm. So, for example, just building on your example of how mobile enabled location and thereby Uber became a great use case, right? So it was not just that whatever you were doing on your laptop, you were able to do on mobile. No, mobile enabled absolutely new use cases and you could do them 10x better. So similarly, I think a success of a form factor. So today, if it is glasses, right, there has to be some use cases which you can do 10x better with let's say AI glasses or with let's say something else, an AI pendant. It should not just be an incremental improvement on your process because otherwise it'll just be information overload, right? If you're seeing your feed on your glasses, like it doesn't really. Maybe that's my thought that some use cases have to be disproportionately solved better, and then that form factor will be adopted significantly faster and more aggressively.
Totally, totally. I think if AI can see what you see, right, with glasses, right, and it can communicate to you in form of a whisper, right. I think that angle is going to unlock new use
Yeah,
cases.
and let's just take that one more step forward. For what use case will it make a lot of sense? Let's say maybe you're going to a conference, like just a small use case, and then it just tells you, hey, exactly that person or XYZ person, which is highlighted on my glass, is your exact persona. Go speak to them. Again, it's a blurred line between privacy and information, but I'm saying exactly that technology, but for what use case? That makes it 10x better, and that's where the adoption will come from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So yeah,
there could also be many other use cases like like an extra pair of eyes and brain, right? Just imagine if someone just had their own twin 24/7 with them, right? So, and that twin is documenting whatever is going in their life, like what I am seeing, what I may not be actively looking at something, but it is in my camera view, right? And Imagine a situation when you are searching for that one thing which you don't know where to keep, and your glasses can remind you that this is on the right hand side of your desk, right? Because you may you might have missed giving attention to that piece, but since the camera captured it, it indexed it, and it knows what it is, and then it helps you all of in all of that, right? I think it's going to make people more dexterous. It's going to make people more aware, about the ambience or scenario that they are in, whether it is a conference, whether it is if you're traveling to a new city, right? So those form factors are, I would say, like just they're about to erupt with new use cases.
Could be. Absolutely. I think that'll be exciting to see what use cases and how they open up those form factors as platforms. I think those will create a lot of application level opportunities.
Yeah.
100%. Fantastic. Lalit, thank you so much. Such an amazing conversation. Especially loved your thoughts around open source and how things are changing with new regulations coming in. Thank you again for an amazing episode today.
Likewise, Ashwani. Always great chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.